Hearts break on the jukebox where the neon stars shine. Where the neon stars shine.
The Funk family tree began in Hammond, Indiana after World War I, when Terry's grandfather, Adam Funk, moved from Germany and joined the Hammond Police Department. He not only would come in contact with Al Capone on a regular basis, he also killed at least 6 people in the line of duty. His father, Dorrance Funk, was born in 1918 and given the nickname Dory by his mother. Terry admitted he saw his father get violent more than once, contributing it to the upbringing of his no-nonsense grandfather, Adam. Dory Sr., in his younger years, would have several brushes with the law, but eventually decided to focus on wrestling and football. He would go on to win the state wrestling tournament 3 years in a row. Dory would be recruited into the University of Indiana in Bloomington, where he took his wrestling career to the next level.
When the sun's going down, no stars in the sky, I'ma head down the road across county line where they roll up the smoke.
In 1940, Dory married his high school sweetheart Dorothy Matlock, who was a year older. Because Dory was still a freshman in college, they kept their marriage a secret. As World War II heated up in Europe, Dory's days as an amateur wrestler were over. In 1941, the couple had their first son, Dory Ernest Funk Jr., and in 1944, while Dory was off fighting in World War II, Dorothy gave birth to Terry, who was a breech baby. While in labor, hemorrhaging began and a blood donor would be required. The only person in the area with the same blood type was a doctor, so he gave his own blood and Terry was born. Terry was named after one of his mother's favorite characters from the funnies, Terry from Terry and the Pirates. While growing up, Dory Jr. would threaten to beat up Terry for anything. When Dory Sr. returned from World War II, low on funds with no job or money, and having a family to support, Dory contacted local promoter Bulk Estes, who ran shows in the Hammond area. Shortly before his death in July 2004, Terry tracked down Bulk, by then 87, at his home in Oklahoma and asked him what happened that day. He said, "Dory took me down and hooked me in a top body scissors and face lock, but after several minutes I got away. We wrestled about 10 more minutes with neither one getting the advantage and we both called it quits." Bulk decided it was best for Dory to go to another wrestling area to get some ring experience. He talked to Toledo promoter Cliff Mopin. Mopin agreed to use him and even let him use his real name. They borrowed a house trailer and enough money for a used Oldsmobile, and the Funk family was ready for the road. They made their home in a trailer park, as did a lot of other wrestlers' families, and they bonded with a lot of them. It was immediate acceptance with other wrestlers' families. The kids stuck together and the families did too. According to Terry, it was much more of a circus atmosphere. The family would make the 30-foot trailer their home, and Terry's mother decorated the room him and his brother shared with paper stars that glowed in the dark. Dory Sr. worked in the Ohio, Florida, Oklahoma, and Arizona territories before returning to Ohio for a second run under promoter Al Haft. Soon after, it was announced they were bringing in the heavyweights, which was anyone over 205 pounds. At 190 pounds soaking wet, Dory was a junior heavyweight and saw the writing on the wall. He was out, and the big guys were in. He gave his notice and they were off to Texas. The couple decided they wanted to lay down some roots. With Dory Jr. changing schools all the time, and Terry just reaching school age, Dory and Dorothy decided, like other families, they wanted a home and stability. As Terry and Dory got older, their fights with each other became more regular, with their mother swatting at them with a rolled up newspaper to keep them in line. It was evident the boys had completely different personalities. While Dory was more laid back and reserved, Terry was crazy enough to try anything, including having a pet skunk named Stinky, who had its scent glands removed. Because wrestling wasn't yet a viable option to support his family, Dory Sr. got a job as a superintendent at the boys' ranch under Cal Farley. who was also a professional wrestler. Dory Sr. ran the entire ranch for 140 kids. Dory would work at the ranch all day and occasionally wrestle at night. As a child, Terry was convinced his father was fighting for his life. Even though he usually knew the other person his father was fighting, he never once questioned the legitimacy of the sport. Terry would go to the arena and cry while watching his father get beaten up, much like his own kids would do decades later. According to Terry, all through his years in school, he would constantly defend his dad as people would regularly refer to him as a phony. In 1952, Terry was chosen as Boy of the Year by the National Athletic Achievement Committee of the YMCA. He won the title by topping more than 35,000 other boys who were entered into the annual competition. Terry started first grade at the boys' ranch. He even received an award for being the best speller in class. Because there was no cigarettes allowed on the ranch, the older boys would convince Terry to start stealing cigarettes, and to fit in with the older crowd, he began smoking as well. At 6 years old, Terry got into his first fight with a boy 2 or 3 years older. Already wrestling his brother and dad at home on a regular basis, when the other boy tried to steal Terry's seat in the mess hall during lunch, Terry snuck up behind him and put the first illegal hold on him he ever used. He grabbed him from behind, put both fingers in his mouth, and pulled back as hard as he could. Every Thursday night, Dory would take the boys from the ranch to the matches. Each week, there'd be a bus outside waiting, and they even had their own roped-off area to sit in. At one point, Dory got into a disagreement with promoter Dory Denton, which resulted in the family leaving the territory. Dory Sr., with family in tow, headed to Vancouver, British Columbia, and wrestled under a mask, working for promoter Rod Fenton. This is where the Double Cross Ranch name came from. Dory wrestled as the Outlaw, and was billed as being from the Double Cross Ranch. Through the mid-1950s, the family would travel across Canada to Ontario, where Dory would have a bloody feud with both Maurice and Paul Vachon. In 1956, Dory would settle his differences with Denton in Texas and become owner of the Amarillo territory. That same year, as Terry started middle school, he would meet the love of his life, Vicky, but wouldn't start dating until high school. While Terry was falling in love, his father was involved in violent matches, including the Texas Death Match, in which he is credited for inventing. When Terry was 14, his dad finally smartened him up to the business, which gave Terry an even greater appreciation for the sport. After he was told the truth, he continued to defend it as a shoot, smartening up only a handful of people throughout his life. Because of the small populations of the towns they would travel to and the number of performances they had to do, if it wasn't looked at as a shoot, they wouldn't be doing much business. Wrestling wasn't the carnival coming to the area, it was a weekly pastime. In 1959, Terry graduated from Canyon High School, where he played on the varsity football team. Although he was small in high school, weighing only 155 pounds, he secured a tryout at Cisco Junior College and gained 30 more pounds that summer. Terry's newfound size helped him make the junior college team, eventually bulking up to 225 pounds. When he began playing as a linebacker and a guard, he topped the scales at around 240 pounds. Upon transferring to West Texas, playing alongside teammates Stan Hansen, Bobby Duncombe, and Virgil Runnels. Terry chose West Texas because it was close to home. Although Terry had dabbled in amateur wrestling, he gave it up during his sophomore year in high school. Nevertheless, he continued honing his wrestling skills at home. His family's garage had been converted into a wrestling gym, where he trained alongside notable wrestlers such as his father, brother, Bob Geigel, Vern Gagne, Dick Hunton, Joe Scarpella, and Lou Thez. This dedication to wrestling would later play a huge role in Terry's success. In 1965, as soon as the football season ended in his senior year, Terry started wrestling in small towns on the Amarillo circuit. Growing up, there was never any question that he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps.
Hearts break on the jukebox where the neon stars shine, where the neon stars shine and the whiskey flow in the dark of the night, so nobody knows we're hanging on a memory, we're hung out to dry, just doing our time where the neon stars stars shine.